I grew up in a series of sawmill towns, and so the towns I lived in, and there were many, were anywhere from 400 people to 600 people. And all the houses were owned by the mill. And so there was no proprietorship. There was nothing, you know, a lot of the yards were dirt. And so I remember being a 5-year-old, big fat little sissy, walking around in the yard with perched on my fat stomach a box of pineapple sherbet with my shirt off. It was probably the last time I ever took it off. And just looking at this world as a child, thinking, you know, I don't recognize any of this. This does not look like the way I think a lot of us that become artists and writers and architects and musicians. The call that's made to us is born of anemia. It's born of what is missing. And it becomes your role and your job to bring it into the world. And so, to the degree as life goes on, that you can make the world outside of you resemble the world that you've been working on inside of you, then you can swim freely between the two of them. And that, in a nutshell, is the premise of the writing of the book. I want to read you a little short passage from the book that answers a question that I asked myself. And I thought, you know, who would put themselves through the utter hell of building a house? You know, it is like jumping off a cliff, and usually about a third of the way into the process of actually doing it, when there's no turning back, you just think, what am I doing? And you have no recourse except to persevere and see it to the end, which can be quite frightening. And then the wealth begins. The question is, why we build? Home is inside us, the place where we find everything that is true. We live now in the physical world, but our task is to walk in awareness of this inner place, to make manifest in this world evidence of another. In the land of brick and mortar, we should always strive and struggle toward the likeness of our deepest understandings. We should seek that place that helps us to remember, or at least not to forget so quickly, the fleeting glimpses of truth that come to us from within. The vulnerable beauty of this world fades to reveal its invulnerable source. I choose life, knowing it will perish. I choose love, knowing it may not last. This is why I love stone and steel and wood and thatch. Together they are a marriage of the permanent and the perishable. There's a tender realism in their choice. For many of us, the quest for home carries us through exhaustive search and compromise. Those who are highly attuned rarely succeed in bending the soul of a house they did not build to their will. A heart that is developed craves evidence of itself and the subtleties it has discovered. I dreamed of walking in the beauty and reality of my own mind. I had no place I recognized. This, in a nutshell, is why we build. When we finally find sanctuary in a physical edifice that mirrors our soul, it is ground gained and won, a flag on the moon of the heart. So, this practice and this work is such a grand privilege for me to walk other people through it and to keep walking it through myself in continuum all my life. And all meanings for all things get deposited in here in this interior house. And they show up when it's appropriate in the venue that's put before me. But I love questions and answers if anybody has any. I'd love to field anything that you've got. Oh, you had a question?
I know this is a huge question, but if you would just share with us, it is so evident in your work and in the text of this book. What are the wisdom sources that you have obviously been fed with? There is the mystical, there is the heritage of the world's wisdom, it seems to me, in there. What sources have fed your vision? I know that's huge, but...
It's mostly hard to say. I was loved intensely and thoroughly all my life. I'm a lucky boy.